What is the most effed up thing that your job required you to do? I worked at Abercrombie and jeans over size 6 were purposely placed on ceiling high shelves so that if someone wanted it, they would have to ask an associate to get it for them. Because I worked as an in-store model, I wasn't allowed to leave the front, but I would page another store worker to come help the client. At that point, my associate would come ask me what was going on. I would explain the client needed a size 10 or whatever, and then my associate would go to the back room and lug out a huge ladder to reach the ceiling shelf for the size 10 jeans. Needless to say, this was humiliating to girls, and so most girls would try on the pants, and if they didn't fit they wouldn't ask for another pair. I think Abercrombie did this on purpose so no one over a size 6 could wear their pants without enduring embarrassment in the store. Hose out a pool full of quite literally. The pool holds approximate 1 million liters, but it got drained for over winter, as it's an outdoor public pool and there were other pools indoor. So, the one day the pool got drained of the water, but someone forgot to shut the drainage pipe back off. After it was done, about a week later, the local council decides to backflush the sewer lines. And what do you know? There's now a bath in the pool, about 200,000 liters worth. No one was actually witness to the bath as it happened overnight, and by the next day it had drained back away. But this created a new problem. This next day happened to be a hot, sunny day which baked the residue onto the bottom and sides of the pool, as well as a 10,000 liter festering pond of still at the bottom of the pool. Now that morning you could smell a slight hint of in the air inside the building. But it was not until you went outside that you really got the full poo bat in the face and saw the monstrosity that lay in the pool. It looked like 1,000 Godzillas got hammered the night before and thought it would be a good idea to get a vindaloo curry, only to have the combination explode out their ass into the pool the next morning. Being the lucky person I am, I got to stand above the sauna for the rest of the day and hose it all back through the 4-inch pipe back to where it came from. I worked at a vet and a really big dog had just died. In order to put it in the body bag I had to break its legs because the body had stiffened. As a psychiatric aide in a mental hospital, I had to change diapers of geriatric patients. On my second day I was changing the diaper of one particularly spry woman. She was standing for the diaper change, and as I made a half-hearted towel wipe through her crotch, she pressed her crotch against my hand and told me to rub harder. Back when I was the sports editor in town, I did a story on a young man who was really into rebuilding antique tractors. I'd met him when he was the hotspur on the football team and a state-ranked wrestler. I spent the Friday with him and his family at the local fair. I liked the boy and admired his work ethic, attention to detail, knowledge of his craft and articulate way of explaining everything. He was patient and considerate and just a good kid. I wrote the story over the weekend and was going to have it published the following Tuesday. On Monday, as I was walking out of the house, the police scanner went off, sending units to an accident scene. Since I was probably closest reporter to the scene and had my photographic equipment with me, I went as it was just a few miles away. I got to the accident and immediately recognized the boy's car. The emergency responders were just cracking the driver's door. I stood well out of the way, but knew it was bad. With the door open, I saw the steering wheel on the older car had imploded the boy's chest. 3 of his ribs could be seen under the wife beater he was wearing. Blood drained to the ground from his mouth as his body fell over. He still had on his lap belt and that's the only thing that held his body in the car. The responders knew the boy was dead and began recovering the body. Rather than rescuing an accident victim, they got him out and into the ambulance. Just as the ambulance was leaving, his parents drove up. They had heard that there was an accident on their road. Then they noticed the car. They asked if I knew anything. I told them I'd got there just moments before them and said I knew nothing, except the ambulance just left. I kept a perfect poker face and ignorance in my voice. They left. I went home and cried. I got a letter from them a few weeks later thanking me for being there. I used to teach the dropout prevention students, most of whom were in gangs. One day there was a rumor that a rival gang member, also a student at my school, was going to shoot one of my students. I was required to keep the boy next to me in my classroom all day long while the gang unit searched for the weapon. This was because the school chose not to lock down, because then it would have received bad press. Anyway, the boy was scared to death all day point, and I was nervous as well. As it turns out, they found the gun after school in the bushes about 100 yards from my classroom. I used to clean operating rooms. One time I had to clean up after a cesarean section. The woman must have exploded. The operating table was dripping in gore and the floor was one big pool of blood. When I reached down with a cloth to start cleaning up the mess, the whole floor moved as one big clot. This other time I was cleaning the pathology room, the place where autopsies are performed. I was cleaning the stainless steel table when I noticed a big green garbage can under it. I pulled it out, looking for a bag to change. When I took off the lid, how nice, a bucket of human lungs. That was a hell of a job. My story does not at all compare to yours, but my last position was assistant director of it. At some point, the higher ups get it in their head to fire a bunch of people, and the night before, I was given a list. The next day I was made to escort people out of the building, giving them 15 minutes to pack up all the things they had collected over several decades of employment. Some of these people I had worked with for quite a while, and in one case, I had also worked with one of their sons for a while. It was awkward, and there was a good deal of crying. The last person I escorted out was an elderly secretary who took the bus to work. Because she had boxes of her stuff, she called for a ride. Rather than trying to bring the stuff on the bus, I was told to make sure she waited outside in the heat. She was not allowed to wait in the lobby of the building. Did some of these people deserve to get canned because of poor performance? Sure, but they could have been treated a bit more humanly, and seeing as how I was in it and not security, I feel like I should not have been put in that position. Feel your pain. I'm also in it and have to handle what my company calls offboarding, which is a friendly way of saying this person either quit or got fired. I get a piece of a paper with the time that person is leaving. A few weeks ago I got to the desk and said, "Can I have your BlackBerry and personal laptop?" The guy says, "Why on earth do you need those?" I responded thinking he was leaving on good terms and said, "I'm handling your departure." He looked at me, completely dumbfounded, and said, "They sent you to fire me." I felt so horrible. I now no longer start an offboarding departure until I'm 100% they are out of the building. I was once, at the age of 16, the only employee at a Shtai store for a week. Everyone had quit, one by one, until there was only me left. I literally had to skip school for a full week to open, run and close, until my DM deemed it inappropriate to have me sleeping in the back room during the night instead of going home. She didn't think the whole skipping school thing was a problem, because I lived on my own, therefore must be some sort of future dropout. When she finally let me hire on some work-hungry podheads, not only did she refuse to make me assistant manager, I had to train my new boss how to work a refine cash register. Make sick money that paycheck, though. 6 years ago, before Netflix streaming, before Hulu, I was a software developer for a company that wrote video on demand software used by major cable companies. Some background: a streaming video uses a specific amount of bandwidth, so with a given piece of hardware you can stream a specific number of videos to different subscribers. Anyone who tries to watch a movie after that will get a "your system is busy. Please try again later" message. There's a specific bit of code that takes your request. "I'd like to watch Braveheart now," and checks the system to make sure there's free bandwidth for you before it starts your movie. I owned the code that made sure there was bandwidth, and I got a new feature request: allow the cable companies to categorize their films into high and low priority movies, and allow them to set different "your system is busy" thresholds for each. That way you can turn away low priority movies when the system is 80% full and save that last 20% for the high priority ones. Now, the financial reality: Braveheart is nearly 3 hours long. You paid $2.99 to watch it. That's $1 per hour. Backdoor Sluts 9 is $15. If it were as long as Braveheart, it still grosses $5 per hour. But it doesn't matter how long the movie is, since the average adult film is streamed for 8 minutes and then turned off. If someone new starts a viewing every 8 minutes for 3 hours, that's $337 to use the exact same bandwidth as the one guy watching Braveheart for $2.99. So, of course, high priority films was code for porn. Once that feature got rolled out, every time I got a "your system is busy" message at home, I knew there was bandwidth free, but they were hoping that some dude who hadn't yet discovered the internet was going to want to jack off in the next 90 minutes. So, yeah, the most effed up thing I've had to do was more annoying and distasteful than effed up. First world problems. I was in the Air Force, and I got volunteered for the base's anti-drunk driving program. Call the number from anywhere on base, and I'd drive over, pick you up, and drive you home. On this particular night, I was driving a car that had been lent to us by the base commander as the program's marked car was in for repairs. So, around 1 AM on a Saturday morning, a call comes in for a gal who says she's alone. To prevent any he said she said situations, I'm assigned a wingman to ride shotgun. We get to the location, and it turns out that this gal isn't alone. Her boyfriend is coming along for the ride, but I'm glad they're not driving home. Before they even get in the car, it smells like a tequila distillery. I'd wager that the lady and her beau have put back a bottle of Cuvo apiece. The smell is so strong that I have to roll down my window. Anyway, we start driving back to the other side of base, which requires us to cross a local highway out one gate, in through another. We are about 300 yards from the gate when suddenly the boyfriend starts yelling, "Dude, you need to stop." Chickie is yawning in Technicolor all over the back seat of the Airfine Colonel's car, no less. I pull over, and she tries to open the door. Unfortunately, she's drunk off her A and the door handle is now slick with vomit, so that doesn't work. She just vomits even more in the back seat. Finally, she stops puking for a moment, looks at me, and says, "I'm feeling better N." Then, as if in slow motion, I watch as she proceeds to vomit down my wingman's back. Shock and horror spread across his face as he realizes that he's getting a Campbell's thick and chunky shower. Did I mention that the car now reeks of tequila, stomach juice, and something that smells like shrimp jambalaya? Yeah. The rest of the windows got rolled down pretty quickly. Anyway, her boyfriend finally gets the girl's door open, and she finishes emptying her stomach onto the pavement. Finally done, she starts moaning about how horrible she feels about the whole situation, and says she's going to clean it all up. Even though she can barely see straight, I'm just trying to get the whole situation over as soon as I can. I book it for the other side of the base, so I can just drop the couple off quickly. Their destination is not far from my wingman's house, so I'm thinking I can drop him off on the way, let him get cleaned up. Then, as we're crossing the highway to enter the gate on the other side, we get the signal from the guards to pull off into the parking lot. Random check. So a young security forces airman comes up to the car. First words out of his mouth are, "Sir, have you been drinking tonight?" Me, "Nope, I'm with airman against drunk driving." Cop, "Sir, I'm smelling a lot of alcohol. You sure about that?" Me, "No, I'm not drunk. We have a girl here who had a little too much to drink and or watch." As I was trying to explain the situation, I pointed to the girl in the back, and I realized just how effed I am. Turns out, in her inebriated state, she was still trying to clean up the vomit with the only piece of cloth she had, her shirt. She wasn't wearing a bra. Meanwhile, her boyfriend is just giggling like an idiot, enjoying the view. So the cop takes a closer look at the car, and he's treated to a guy covered in vomit, a half-naked chick also covered in vomit, a guy who is so drunk that he can't sit up straight, the stench of tequila and puke. Cop, "Sir, please step out of the vehicle." I wound up being arrested for conduct unbecoming a member of the armed forces and suspicion of grand theft auto. I'm not the colonel. What was I doing with his car? Because I wasn't driving the marked airman against drunk driving car. I had a hell of a time convincing the cops to even call the program to verify me. The colonel wasn't answering his phone either. The cops wound up driving the car back to the colonel's house, and they gave everybody else a ride home. After about an hour of waiting, they finally called the dispatch number, who verified that I was, in fact, part of the program, and that the colonel had lent his car to the program for the night. The cops let me out, then drove me over to the colonel's house. When we arrived, the cops pulled a bucket, a scrub brush, and some Lysol from the back of the patrol car. The colonel wouldn't be happy. They told me to find vomit in his car, so I needed to clean it up, make it look like new. Took me until 4 AM before the smell was gone, and then I had to explain the arrest, even though I was never charged with anything, to my first sergeant on Monday morning.